Okay, I'm reading oh, this service, I know, prayer session. Let's say I'm number 318, the one that I'm 318.
Yes, the coffee. Child. Did you hear anything he said? Sort of. Yeah. So I was going to explain it to you clearly now. So ended now. Anybody knows what is ended now? Yeah.
Environment, women and children.
And the Women's Ministry Department is going to have a grand ended now motorcade next Sabbath. It begins at Arima. It begins at Arima to Kirek to Sao to Other Spain. It begins at 12 noon and it goes to 6 p.m. And they are calling all persons, male, female, boy, girl, children, man, woman. The South Caribbean Conference of SPA will be hosting a grand motorcade on Saturday, September 10, 2022. The major objective of this motorcade is to raise the awareness as well as make a stand as a church against the continued issue of gender-based violence that continue to plague our nation. And this is not the first time I am standing here to talk about this. We convened from the borough of Arima from 12 and with an official opening ceremony with a mini parade at Arima, and will continue to the different areas. Curate Sao as the motorcade progresses along the Eastern Main Road. It will end at 6:30 p.m. in the city of Port of Spain on the Brian Lara promenade, with a grand finale program for all to participate. We encourage all to support this event. Together, take a stand against gender-based violence in all its forms. So some of you might be saying, but that is a Sabbath. Yeah, we know it's a Sabbath, but women and children get abused on Sabbath also. And we are raising awareness against gender-based violence. So I am saying, you know, all those who are interested, anybody interested in going to this motorcade? All right, I am seeing the hands. Now we are going to get a maxi for those who are interested. Those on the Zoom platform also. But you need to give me your decision today. Because I can get a maxi Friday or Saturday. And let us go and join the Women's Ministry Department of the South Caribbean Conference. Many times as a church, we sit and as Brother, what was it, the Zoom meeting thing that Sister said, as Brother Floyd said, it's time for us to stop sitting and saying nothing. I pray God that it doesn't reach to you, but or your family. But let's, as a church, speak up against violence to women and children. So if you are interested, let me know at the end of the service so that I can know how many of us will be going. So that I will know to get a big or small maxi. I pray that we get a big maxi, and those who have cars, because the maxi full, they will come with their own car. Have a pleasant Sabbath.
Good morning, President Sabbath. Morning, President Sabbath. Yes, I pray that we have a blessed week. Yes, I know we have a reason to rejoice because we are alive. God is good and all the time. I'm glad to see so many of you this morning, especially those who haven't seen in a few. And I acknowledge our visiting friends with us. I'm not going to get you out this morning, that may have been done before. And of course, our online guests, those who follow us on YouTube from week to week, we do acknowledge your presence with us. And today is a special day whereby, of course, we have placed the information in the chat, and we did mention it last week that today is actually a day of prayer and fasting. And of course, we did give folks the challenge to participate in whatever fast that you may have chosen. If it's a total fast, a food fast, or water fast, choice is yours. And of course, we do want to get back to that form, all right, of worship, as I would say. because it's indeed a very important section A, what I mentioned to see. All right, it's an important principle as Christians that we need to participate in, not just pray. And of course, this morning starts the first day of the family emphasis, whereby we actually going to have this whole week, we're going to focus on that. And given the outcome of the decision, if we choose to participate in the motorcade, we as a church, we will conclude our family emphasis night on Friday evening. Of course, if not, we will culminate our session next week with a grand time, focusing again on the family. A couple of weeks ago, we somewhat started a little touch in terms of the focus of the family emphasis for this week. And it's all about resilience. Do you all remember that? When we spoke about being resilient, what it means to be resilient, the importance of having resilient families, resilient relationships, resilient marriages. And this morning, it's no less of a thing that we actually want to focus on this morning. As I mentioned, we are focusing on prayer and fast. So this morning, I want to give us all the opportunity to pray individually, to approach God for ourselves, because yes, many times we come with our burdens, we come with our stresses inside God's sanctuary, but God's proposition to us this morning is that we can lay all our burdens down before Him. Amen? How many of us trust God fully to give our lives totally to Him? I want to remind us all that God is still interested in every aspect of your life, every detail. We serve a God who knows how many hair follicles that are on our head. And if to me, He is interested in that, trust me, God, He is interested in every aspect of your lives. So I want us to give the opportunity now to everyone as we go into our first prayer session, as we pray individually at this time. All right, and we'll take a couple of minutes to do so. After which we have a special feature presentation, which I will introduce afterwards. All right, so let us take the opportunity at this time as we adopt a formal prayer, as we speak to God individually. Not being afraid to speak your thoughts, because we know God knows everything that you're thinking. The serve of God, again, knows our dreams. Just think about that. He knows what you're dreaming. He knows what it means. And let us speak and empty our hearts to Him this morning, as He's ready to listen to us and answer our prayer. Let us pray at this time. is right for us. What a friend we have in Jesus. And we have the opportunity to present to him all the sins and griefs, knowing that there's nothing too hard for him. There's nothing too heavy for him to bear, because he wants to be intimate with us in our relationships, and as I said, in every aspect of our lives. And this morning, as I said, we have a special feature which will be presented by the Women's Ministries Director of the General Conference, and I speak to none other than Sister Heather Dawn Small. While she wants to be able to do a live presentation with us this morning, I did reach out to her via the Wilmington SDA Church, where she did in fact did a similar presentation on the topic that I was going to present on. And when I saw it, I said, you know what, no, Sister Small, she would have captured the full essence of what we were actually going to present this morning. So it's actually the same presentation. And she did give us the permission, as well as the Wilmington SDA Church in New Jersey. And I spoke to them, and they did share their meetings in terms of sharing the word all the way from the US this morning. So I know that some may be logged on even now, and we acknowledge your presence with us this morning. And for those of you who don't know, Sister Small, as I said, she presently holds the position of director for Women's Ministries at the General Conference of SDA. And she's not a stranger to some of us, knowing that she's right from right here in Trinidad. Amen. And Sister Small, she earned a master's degree in leadership with an emphasis in pastoral care, and I was informed that she is, in fact, a candidate for a doctoral degree in intercultural studies. And some time has passed, so I wanted to take the opportunity to go into our presentation right now, all right? And do sit back, after which we're not going to take the full presentation, but we are going to pause to have some talking points in between. And we have said, let's take it, the presentation by
Family resilience being refined by the fire. And I have to tell you, I love this topic. I love this topic because learning about how we can go through life's trials, not with fear, not with anxiety, but with anticipation and with hope, knowing that God's going to do something. He's going to do something during this trial that I never thought he could do. He's going to bring me through, and it's going to be one more step closer. I'm going to be one more step closer to the person he wants me to be, the person he's preparing me to be. So let's begin with this very interesting topic. And when I come to the end, I'm going to share with you some handouts for this particular topic that I have sent to Sister London. And if anyone is interested in the PowerPoints, because I didn't make handouts, I didn't have time, I'm sorry. But if anybody's interested in the PowerPoints, I could send them to Sister London, and you can use the PowerPoint just like you would use handouts. There's a lot of information there for you to learn from. So let's begin with our Bible verses. 1 Peter 1, 6 to 7. These are some of my favorite verses in the Bible. And Peter is saying, in this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. And then Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And these are two very positive verses when we think about facing trials. Because for every trial that comes my way, one of my mantras is always, there's nothing God and I cannot do. There's nothing God and I cannot do. Once I put my hand in his hand, once I surrender my life to him, then there's nothing that he and I cannot get through, cannot do. And then the verses from Peter, of course, is talking about the refiner's fire. And, you know, Peter in more than one place talks about not being surprised by trials, because they're going to come. And we're going to learn about a little bit about this as we go along. But these Bible verses are verses that you should memorize, that you should keep in mind. When trials come your way, as they will, and most likely you're in a trial right now, maybe you're in more than one, because that's how the devil is doing it now. He sends as many trials into your life as he possibly can. But when trials come your way, remind yourself, God is working on me. I'm being tested. Yes, this trial is tough. Yes, I wish it wasn't here, but God is going to bring me out like gold. I'm going to be refined. And in the end, I have the hope of heaven to come. So we are all being refined by the fire. And like I just said, you know what? Fire is not warm, it's not cool, it's hot. And I always think of the fire with the 3 Hebrew boys. I don't know what they could have possibly put in that fire to make it 7 times hotter than it was. I'm talking about in those days, that the soldiers who threw them into the fire died because of how hot the flames were. So when we think about being refined by fire, yes, it's not a comfortable thing. The devil intends to hurt God by hurting us and turn us away from God's protection. But God has the power to make something beautiful that can arise out of the ashes. Oh, I love that. No matter what's going on in your life, always remember God's going to bring something beautiful out of it. You know, when COVID first started and we started seeing people dying by the hundreds, the thousands, the tens of thousands, and now we're into the hundreds of thousands, that was really, there was nothing that we could see good coming out of COVID. What was good? That we would learn to wear masks, that we would go and take our vaccines. But you know, God had something even greater. And I think most of us, if not all of us, can look at COVID and say, during COVID, this is what God did for me, brought me through. Not only I didn't catch COVID, because many of us have caught COVID, but the fact that maybe my spiritual life has improved. Maybe my physical life, my health life has improved. God always, always brings good out of evil. That's the God that we serve. And it's when we're going through these struggles that we need to completely depend on God, because he's the one who's going to give us the comfort. He gives us the strength. He sends us the support that we need so that we can deal with the problem. You know, like gold, our faith, just move right. Like gold, our faith is refined by the struggles we experience if we allow it to make a positive change in our lives. In those struggles, we often must completely depend on the Lord to get us through by providing comfort, sending us support in various forms, or addressing the problem itself. Science calls this post-traumatic growth. When you can go through a trial and come out better after the trial, that's what science calls post-traumatic growth. So we've gone through COVID, we've come out of COVID, and you know, even though COVID may have gotten me sick and destroyed part of my life, you know what? I have come out a stronger Christian because of it. Because of COVID, my marriage is stronger. Because of COVID, my children are more connected to each other from those months we had to be confined to our home. All of those positive things are called post-traumatic growth. And post-traumatic growth is a psychological benefit that we can experience. A psychological benefit that we can experience, that comes as a result of the adversity that we have gone through. So it takes us to a higher level. Yes, the trial was beating me up, but when I look at my life afterward, I really am better off than I was before this particular trial came. So every night we've been asking the question, what is resilience? The ability to withstand and rebound from disruptive life challenges. And what are those disruptive life challenges? We call them trials. People in the world call them problems, you know, ups and downs. You know, I go through a difficult time, but as Christians, we know what this is. It's called a trial. And it's a trial because we are being tested. The devil is on one hand, Jesus is on the other. And the devil wants us to be guilty and to go to hell with him. And Jesus says, no, Father, my blood. And because you are depending on Jesus, you will survive. So when we think about resilience in the context of relationships, now this is what we're talking about, the family. Sunday afternoon, we talked about the marriage, two people, husband and wife. And then on Monday, I believe it was, we spoke, was it Monday or Wednesday? I think I'm getting confused. In any case, yes, Wednesday, we spoke about children, how to help our children to be resilient. Tonight, we're talking about the whole family. Husband, wife, mother, father, children. But not only the immediate family, but the extended family. So if there are those of you online tonight who say, well, I'm single, this doesn't have anything to do with me. Yes, it does. If you have family members who are alive, and I think there are very few people in the world today, well, I shouldn't say that, but compared to families, it's few who have no family members. Everybody's dead. Or they're so far away, they've never had any contact with these extended family members. But most of us have family members that we may talk to on the phone, or Christmas time or holiday times, we visit them. So what we're talking about tonight is not just the immediate core, the family, immediate family, but we're talking about all the extended people, because the extended people are so important in helping the immediate family to be resilient. And this is extremely important. People with good self-confidence are more likely to be resilient. So that's one thing. If you are suffering with low self-esteem, which, sad to say, many women and men, but more so women, are suffering with in today's world, then this thing of resilience is going to be a little more difficult for you, because your view of yourself is not positive. You know, there's still people today who, when trials come into their lives, and I'm talking about Christians, who, when something bad happens in their lives, first ask themselves, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What am I being punished for? And those are the questions of someone suffering from low self-esteem. Because when you have positive self-esteem, you immediately know it's nothing that you did. It's what the devil is trying to do in your life. Now, I'm quite aware that there are trials that we create in our lives. You know, I know I'm diabetic, but I'm still eating sugar every day in large quantities, and then I end up in a coma in the hospital and all that sort of stuff. Well, you know, you kind of created that trial. The devil just kind of helped you along by tempting you. But I'm not talking about those trials we create. We're talking about trials that we still can't figure out where they came from. You know, what is this? Life was going along so well, and then all of a sudden, everything seems to have fallen apart. Our relationship with God, parents, siblings, friends, teachers, pastors, mentors, all contribute to who we become. Knowing there's someone in your life who is supportive and reliable is a big part of resilience. I want you to look at this. It's not just you alone. It's not just your family against the whole world. God has placed people in your life to help support your family, parents and siblings and friends and on, people. And the way that some of us like to hibernate, you know, well, it's my problem. I'm going to deal with it myself. This is my family's business, and I don't have to tell anybody because it's nobody's business. And so you keep your business to yourself, and the devil beats up on you because you have not reached out or have not allowed anyone to reach in to help you have that resilience that you need to go through this trial. You know, researchers did a research in Hawaii. They were called Werner and Werner. They did a particular research among young people, and they watched them over a period of 40 years. They wanted to see how these 700 young people who came from situations where there was a lot of trauma in their family, there wasn't resilience, there wasn't that support system. And so they wanted to see how are these young people, as they grow through the years, how are they going to deal with this? What kind of people do they become? And they found that 1/3 of this group, now remember what I said, they all came from homes where there were many traumas, whether it was divorce or it was death or it was drugs in the family, abuse in the family. They all came from that negative background. 40 years later, they discovered that 1/3 of the people in that study that was done in 1993 research, and I think I made a mistake there. It was an earlier year, I'm sorry. But they discovered that some people who had struggled as teens had actually turned their lives around. How was this possible? Because they had supportive relationships and religious involvement. And that was found to have the most significant impact on the resilience of these individuals. You see, it is within the relationship where resilience begins. So out of these 700 people who were tested, over the years, even though they all came from negative backgrounds, 1/3 of them became very strong, positive adults. Why? Because of the relationships that they had in their lives, because of the spirituality in their lives. And this is something that makes a big difference in how your family, how my family will survive stressful times. So let's look at family stress, adaptation, and resilience. Stressful crises and chronic challenges do not just happen to an individual. They also happen within the context of a family. What happens to one person impacts the whole family. By building on family strengths, families can emerge stronger and more resourceful in meeting challenges. I want us to look at this very carefully. When one person in the family is going through a difficult time, it affects everyone in the family. Maybe there's a child in the family who's on drugs, that affects everybody. Maybe it's a father in the family who's dealing with a chronic illness, that affects everybody. Whatever happens to one person in the family affects everyone. And what we need to examine is how are we going to deal with this? How is the family going to survive resilient I'm sorry. How is the family going to survive and be resilient where we bounce back, but not just bounce back, but we come out stronger? So we're going to look at certain things. Family belief systems. A family's belief system can have a powerful impact on how a family perceives a crisis. Adversity causes us to try and attach a meaning to it. Why am I going through this problem? Shared beliefs can help family members make meaning of crisis situations. It can also facilitate a more hopeful outlook and offer spiritual connections through the process. So shared beliefs, if here's my family, and we all are Christians, we have the same belief system. We don't believe in running out there and cheating people and killing people and lying and all those sort of stuff. We have that one belief system. And again, if it is spiritually, if it is connected to a spiritual belief system, it's even stronger than a family that is not connected to a church, a religion. And I want you to note that with the research that has been done, this doesn't just apply to Christian families. It could be a Hindu family, a Muslim family, it could be a Buddhist family. But what researchers have found that families that share the same belief system, whether it's religious or it's dealing with just morality, those families tend to be stronger families. So how do we make meaning out of adversity? You know, in America, and this is interesting, American culture tends towards individualism. You know, it's all about me. If I'm in a marriage and it's not making me happy, I'm going to leave because my happiness is the most important thing. If I'm in a job and it's not making me happy, I'm going to move someplace else. I buy certain things because it makes me happy. And so one of the things which we suffer with, and I have to say we suffer with it because, you know, in this culture, in Western culture, really, we've taken it to the extreme. And what we have created is a society that is very selfish, that is very concerned about, I'm number one. Everybody else comes after me. And that's not a bad thing per se, except that when I being number one makes me neglect everyone else. So American culture tends towards individualism. But most cultures of the world, and we're talking in the developing countries now because they're the majority cultures, have a more communal approach. It's more family-based, family-oriented. This is what we do as a family. This is how we support each other as a family. When you look at the cultures that you find in countries like in different African countries, Asian countries, South America, Caribbean, what some of us grew up in the Caribbean culture, we grew up knowing that yes, our family was the most important thing, but we also discovered, you know what, there was a communal family. And if you misbehaved and somebody in that family, that communal family saw it, they would either punish you themselves, which was always very interesting, and then they would tell your family so that your family would punish you. So if you were misbehaving in church, sister so-and-so saw, in those days, they used to ring your ears. You know, they'd ring your ears, they'd pinch you, they take you outside and spank you, and then they tell your parents, and your parents would spank you again. That's the communal approach, the approach that says it takes a village to raise a family. However, in Western cultures, we don't have that. Your child could be out there hanging out with a gang and smoking by the corner, and nobody's going to tell you, even though people know who the child is and who the parent is. It's not my business. I'm not going to say anything. That's not my business. That's the individualistic way of viewing things. The approach diversity that I'm talking about in the communal culture now as a shared challenge that can be faced as a family. When we work together to face problems, we are more likely to overcome them. Resilient families are more likely to see adversity as a normal part of life. And we know that. The Bible tells us that trials are, that this is life. It's not going to be any different. This is the life we live. Because I have money doesn't mean I'm going to have a life of no trials. Because I'm poor doesn't mean I'm going to have a life of mostly trials. The problem is the devil, he brings trials into everybody's life, whether they believe in God or they believe in Buddha or they have no belief at all. The devil persecutes everyone, everyone. But those of us with a belief system are able to make meaning of the adversity which we go through. Grief reactions are common, and I particularly chose out grief as an example. It is important to acknowledge the loss that may have occurred. And I'm bringing this out because we're going through COVID. And COVID has caused a lot of grief in our lives. And I'm not just talking about people who have died now, just the change in our daily lives that has come about as a result of COVID. Things like children who had to stay home from school and learn over the internet, the loss of their friends who they would play with and talk to, that caused a grieving process in those children's lives. You as an adult who may have lost your job, or maybe you got COVID, and as a result of COVID, you can't work anymore, or you can't do as much as you used to. There's a grieving process that takes place because of the change that has come about. And the only way to survive the grieving process because of these many changes is if we have that family, whether it's an immediate family or maybe I'm single. Well, I need my church family. I need my extended family. I need my friends who, those close friends who are like family. Those are the things that we need. Now, of course, there are many other challenges that families go through, but I chose grief because that's one of the big things that we are dealing with. Many are grieving the loss of the life that used to be, that they no longer have. And so many of us tend to push that aside and say, okay, it's the new normal, so I'm just going to go into the new normal. No, you need to acknowledge the fact that life is not normal anymore. Yes, you could call this the new normal, but many of us are struggling to come to terms with this new normal. I know for myself, one of the things that I longed for a long time and still do is when would we start going back to church. Our church, Deanwood Fellowship, has not resumed church in a building. So we've literally been out of church now going on, 21, 22, going on 2 years. And there's some extenuating circumstances there. But again, when you live on your own and you don't have that weekly service where you go and connect with your church family. Yes, you may be seeing people at work and whatever, but if you're living on your own and then there's no church family for you to connect to, and maybe your extended family is, everybody's being cautious and is far away and you haven't seen them in a few years, it makes life very painful. And again, that grief, the grieving process. I remember I met a lady who was sharing with me that during the time of COVID, because the quarantine time, her daughter couldn't come and see her. Her husband had died before COVID. Her children, most of them were far away, but there was this one daughter who was living in the same state, but the daughter couldn't come and see her mother because everybody was on lockdown and quarantine. And the woman said to me, the only way, she said, that I survived without going crazy in that house or by myself, day in and day out, never knowing when this thing would end, all the fear that I was dealing with, she said, is because I had a cat. I said, a cat? She said, yes. It was the only living thing that I could touch and stroke. And you know how cats are, they love you, Cats love attention. That little creature that some of us wouldn't even consider, but for her, that helped her through the grieving process, through the loss. So we have to realize that there are things that we need to do as a family and as individuals to help us through. Let me get moving on quickly. So we need to have a positive outlook. And as Christians, we have hope. And that's one of the things that gives us a positive outlook. Hope is as essential to our spirit as oxygen is to our lungs. Though a positive attitude doesn't change reality, it can help you accept what can't be changed. In other words, you know what? I have the hope that Jesus is going to come one day. All of this is going to be over. I don't know if I'm going to be alive when he comes, but the bottom line is when I close my eyes, the next time I open them with a breath and I'm alive, I'm going to see Jesus coming. That's my eternal hope. And I keep that ever before me so that everything I see around me happening, I remind myself, this is not going to go on forever. This is not eternal. Jesus is coming. I have hope. And that positive attitude as a Christian and claiming the promises of God, reading the beautiful words of encouragement in the Bible, those are the things that increase our hope. Then I need to look at my spirituality. Prayer is a way for us to connect immediately with our loving Father. Spending time in nature is another powerful way to commune with our Creator God. Reading the Bible can help us develop understanding of, what's going on. Our communities of faith can also be an excellent resource for comfort and practical assistance. Then we're going to look at some family organizational patterns. And these are things that we need to develop in our homes. Certain patterns of behavior. Families first, we know, come in all shapes and sizes.
All right, so if we could take just a quick pause in the presentation, and as she mentioned, the importance of prayer. And this time we want to actually just pause for a prayer session before we continue. And just some information, because I know this may be people's mind with regards to the status of Brother Williams. We did get the opportunity to make contact with him yesterday at the hospital. And in fact, I saw him when I spoke to him. So that means he's somewhat coming around. He's progressing surely but slowly. And we want to actually take the time this morning to pray for Brother Williams. Some people are watching this and what's happening, but just to let you know, suddenly Brother Williams had a stroke where he ended up in the hospital, and he was there. Of course, he's still there, but he came up last night. All right, so excellent. All right, so that is excellent news. And we want to actually continue to pray for him, for his recovery. And of course, knowing that he's a son of God, God knows it. And of course, speaking about tests and trials, definitely, Brother Williams has a testimony to share when we speak to him today. But before we continue, I want to ask Sister Greenwich to lead us out in that prayer session.
So at this time we are moving into prayer session at this time. So I will ask a few persons to pray. We will be asking Sisters Charles, our women ministries leader, to pray on behalf of the women, challenges that they might be facing in this time. whether it's in the job, home, wherever their challenges lie, we are asking we will ask Sister Pandora to pray on behalf of the men folk in the church that they will respond to the call of God and to function as God would expect them to. So whenever I hear us, we will ask them to pray on behalf of the youth, that they will find their purpose in life, that they will understand their God's call upon them, and that they will be able to fulfill the purpose of God in their lives. Sister Sarah, to pray on behalf of Brother Williams and those of us who may be plagued by some illness, whether it is spiritual or physical. We are asking you to do that prayer. And so at this time, we want to sing 1 Peter 4:61. Be still, my soul, the Lord is on your side. We have already done our confession, prayer for forgiveness of sin. So we are going clean before our Lord at this time. We are taking the word of God and first we must believe that God is the rewarder of those that diligently seek Him, that we must believe we have it, and we will get it. So we ask Sister Tina to pray on behalf of our young women. And young men, they will be looking for companion at this time, and we want to seek God's direction in their lives so that they will be able to get the kind of companion that Suraj and Ramdel and Well and even Kaya, who is growing up, will find godly spouses or partners. Because when these days we must seek God direction, we will end up where we do not want to be. So at this time, we are going to stand and sing 1 verse of 4:61, and then we will have our question. Please be my soul, the Lord is on your side. May patiently the throne of we prepare. If you are Lord, to all the provide, in every day, He will be still my soul, thy best I heavenly friend. You call me ways, leads to a joy forever. And so we will begin. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for being an awesome Lord, for being our Father, for being our Creator, and being our Savior and friend. We thank you for this opportunity to come and call upon your name. We thank you that you are a God who makes promises, and you are a God who keeps your promises, a God who cannot lie. And so, Father, we said that we can talk to you, and we can cast our cares upon you, because you care for us. We say, while we are yet speaking, you will care and answer our prayer. And so we come believing that we are the shadow of the God, that we will answer our prayer. And so this morning, dear Father, we come to you. We bring the woman to you, dear Father. The woman of our nation, the woman of our church, and the woman in general. Father, we thank you for the gift of womanhood. And Father, you know what you were doing when you created woman. And so we thank you. Father, we thank you that for the privilege that we can be wives, mothers, sisters, and friends. And so we come to you this morning, Lord. We thank you for giving us this feminine intuition so that we can reach out to our husbands, to our children, to our friends, to our neighbors, to the young and to the old. But Father, anything good that you have done, anything you have done, Satan always tries to turn it around and make bad out of it. And so, Father, Satan is like a roaring lion doing about, seeing how many of us he can destroy. Because he knows that if he destroys us, then he will be making a dent in society, in the church, and in our home. And so, Father, I pray for strong women that you will continue to fill them with your Holy Spirit, so that they will continue to be strong, virtuous women, and continue to build them in a started within them. I pray that you will help them to continue to hold up the hands of other women who may not be as strong. Father, Lord, this morning I bring wives to you. And I pray, dear Lord, that you will be your wives and help us to be the type of wife that you will want us to be. Standing by our husband and supporting him in righteousness, for righteousness' sake. I pray that you will help us to stand up for what is right and speak against what is wrong, even as the light. I pray for mothers, dear Father, you have given us the task to lead their children and to lead them in the path so that when they grow old, they will continue to stay with you. Father, we may have failed as mothers, but we ask you to hold it not against us. And you will continue to be with us and help us to lead the right example so that our children can see the way that we should go and they will walk in it. So that our boy children will learn how to treat a lady and how to be a gentleman. Continue to give us the wisdom as mothers. I pray that you will be with us as sisters and help us to be there for each other. Help us to form a strong bond and to hold up and support each other and to be there for each other and to share our joys and our sorrows and our trials and to empower and encourage each other. Father, at this time I bring these women to you. Father, there are so many women who are being abused for one reason or the other. I pray that you will be with them and fill them with your Holy Spirit, therefore, and give them the boldness to speak out, therefore, to stand up in the name of Jesus and speak out against abuse of all form. Father, I pray that you will remove the fear that is within them, because it's fear that is causing them to just stay in the abusive situation. Father, I pray that you will teach them to educate themselves so that they won't have to stay in abuse for support, but for security, but they will be able to step off and come out of it. Father, I pray that you will be with those who are not being abused and help them to support the victims. Sometimes as women, we are our worst enemy and we support the perpetrator and not the victim. Father, help us as sisters to be there for our sisters and help them to stand up. I pray in a special way that you will be with us and help us to be in that fight against abuse from Sabbath morning, whether in person or in prayer. Help us to stand up and speak out, Father, we must be brave and fair. Too many women are being killed, too many women are being raped, too many children are being left without their mothers because of abuse. But I pray that will be with women who need to work and they are on the weekend and then to so train themselves and get themselves educated. So they will not have to sit down and depend on somebody to take care of them, but they will depend on you and they will go out and work so that they can take care of themselves and their children. I give women to you, dear women, and because you have made us the type of persons that you are made, I pray that you will help us accept our role and our responsibility and to carry it on with the help of the Holy Spirit. So continue to be with us. Those who are discouraged, therefore, encourage them. Those who are weak, strengthen them. And those who are strong, help them to be there for the weak and discouragement. We thank you for being with us. We thank you for hearing. We thank you for answering our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
You are worthy of all praise and that we speak to them like speaking. Holy Spirit, who walk over them, keep them from harm the results of their fear. And Father, please them in your hand in the position that they are in. Whether Father, Son, brother, that is standing for you. You know each and every one in the situation that they are in. And our fifth level of the people, I'm asking them to fill that Holy Spirit. And then the Lord said, being in the position is really more than I accept you as the personal Savior to guide and direct me. And then the Lord to make right decisions for you. We have no assurance that you are able to take care of them. May you have your way in their life and you properly decide. As far as the Lord help us to think that you will understand how to not be going to you. Because therefore, in that time, like you are really patients. So I'm asking you to touch them in a mighty way. In that way, so that in whatever condition they are in, they trust in you to make the right decision. Their Lord, as before them, may they be your representative towards the younger one. So you have said to us as children, we should train our children in the Holy Spirit, so that when they go old, they will not be fast. And this is our plan, dear Lord, that we just as well. We are here to help the younger men, younger boys, to do that which is righteous and pleasing. Father, we don't know what they are also abused. And I'm asking you for to strengthen them, help them to recognize that they are dependent on you, that they only lead their family in the right way. And if they are weak, they alone. That is that to help them to depend on you, who are going to strengthen them for whatever situation that they are in. To help them to be good parents. Those who are in the church, where I pray that you will give them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to perform the duty that require of them in our spiritual things. Help that their Lord will recognize what you require of them, and I pray that you will be willing to knowing that there is food, no help, no strength, anyone but food. Master. They all have a chance to
you get more to glorify. And at times we see difficult parallel of difficult glorify. So that is why we take in life. If then know that inside that we are tonight, we like that we know the life of the we like that we know to meet that others can see and know that we feel the hope of God came to me. Father, we are fully in each other, yes, fathers, and we will know that we will continue to provide for them, especially the Christian men. And then their Father, in spite of the confusion that they are in, to be confident in you, through Jesus Christ, the Lord and the Savior. We realize the Father that nothing you have to do for them and for their families. So how they will go. People and myself to you. And I pray, Father, that you will listen attentively to your voice. It's only you that gives the voice. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Heavenly Father, come before you. We have thankful to you. The precious mercy toward us. Oh Father, you know more than the Savior grace today, and you know what is happening in the world. And when I look, I say, Lord, don't be yourself in your own focus. Because I read your word in Timothy last week, and I read about family. I read about pestilence, and I read about death. And I hope that you will remember your Father, and help the youth to remember that you are there for them. And that if they want to be great, as you said, that they will become a student. You said it all when you said, you fed me when I was hungry. You told me when I was naked. And they asked, when did you do this? And he said, when you are going to the least of me that you are going to come from me. You are help them to remember that you will not allow them to beg bread or gold. To keep that faith in their heart that you will support them in fight upon the adversities that they will be coming their way because it is here already. And not just to darkness, but just to brighten their hearts to know that you are there to them, their Father, and that they should put their trust in you and not in them. And to remember, O Lord, that in this world that we live in, it is controlled by men. And those are according to the times and the customs and the politics and the opinions and the principles of men. And we should not put our faith in the things of this world that does not satisfy and does not fulfill. O Lord, help them to know, and so I used to say when I say this on the school road, the way to be happy is to make others happy, O Lord. So, Father, you know that money, wealth, and all these things cannot satisfy or fulfill. It cannot quench their thirst. But the only way to be happy, O Lord, is to make others happy. And how can we do that, Lord? By developing love in our hearts. And you are love, O Lord, so that you will go in them. Tell them who these schools are not on them, O Lord, to fall on them and strengthen them, so that they will be able to carry on the good book. Even after I and others like you are gone, that they will carry on the good book, O Lord. And thank you, and I praise and I glorify your wonderful name this evening. In Jesus' name, thank you.
So you will sing the second stanza as we move on. Be still my soul, like God was on the sea. To thy refuge, your eyes behind the bar. I know I won't, but there and nothing change. All of this is your heart,
Be still my soul, the way my way to the Lord. His voice will move, and why he was known.
Heavenly Father, we come to the prayer of this day. Thank you for the lessons of life. Thank you for the goodness and the mercies of us all of us. We know that we live and move and have our being because of you, not because of anything good that we have done. So we come to you today and we ask that you will cleanse our hearts from every sin and sin, that you will make an end with sin, transgression, and iniquity, so that we bring the everlasting righteousness of Christ in our lives. I pray today that you will forgive us, that you will give us the Holy Spirit, so that everything that we do and say today will be impressed by the Holy Spirit. We pray for those that are sick and in the hospital. There are many, and because we said the Lord hears the prayer of the righteous. We come to you this afternoon and present our petitions to you on behalf of all those that are sick among us. We pray for our child sister. Now we ask the Lord that as we have got this petition, you said that prayers and intercession should be made for all men. So we can receive and come back this afternoon, and we ask the Lord that you will direct and that He will take care of the situation that is the reality of our life. We pray this morning for Brother Michelle and his wife. I ask the Lord that you will guide and protect him. Most of all, that you will give him wisdom to make whatever decisions he has to make about his health, whatever decision he has to make about his wife. I pray, Father, that the Holy Spirit will rest upon them, and that He will bring a healing down upon them, that they will experience your power and your love and your grace and your mercy in their lives. I pray especially this morning for that person that is here, and Sister Kelly. I ask the Lord that you will give Sister Kelly and the other who present here. Lord, you know what she's done at the best. Lord, we pray, Father, that you will direct. Father, we thank you for bringing her out of the hospital, and we pray tonight this day that she has come to present herself before you, that you will touch her body, wherever the pain is there, wherever the things that are not going wrong. We pray that you, because of your power, you will give command to the cells of her body to function and the way that they want to function. That will be good. Me, I present myself to you. I present those of us among us who have high blood pressure. I present those who have diabetes, those who have cancer, those who are suffering silently and understand do not know, but yet they bear it, because He said, charity bear all things and it's beyond suffering. And so this morning we pray that you give them the grace to suffer long, but yet, Lord, as they eyes upon you, we have set our faces like a flint, and we will not move. Our fathers trust in you, and we deliver them. And so today, as we present our petitions to you on behalf of all those that are sick, we trust in you that you will not be confounded, neither be ashamed, but that you will deliver us because we are our God. We praise the Williams. We thank you for the battles fought. We thank you for the victories won. We thank you for answered prayer, and we continue to press our petitions to you, okay? So that the day will come when you will rejoice and say it was good that we have known the Lord and that we have fought His face. Thank you, baby. Remember when we look here and honestly that was sick. But Lord, we ask you, Lord, to lay a hand upon him. As we present our prayers to you in this country of the most holy place, we pray that you will answer our prayer. Let us not take our health for granted, because we remember that you who are well, but we know that the time will come and there's so much sickness and suffering that will let us guard well with our needs of our soul, our needs of our health, so that it will last us until such time as we come and we will return again. Any person in this room that will fully Patrick in a special way, or ask him, covering up from that young man. For you have seen how many times he has got in. But you have been living in. And so we thank you that Lord, for watching you in. Continue to uphold him, touch every part of his body that is malfunctioning. In his mind, dear Lord, and help him to stay in you. Encourage him, dear Lord. Help us to encourage one another as we see their future. Bless us this morning and take over to if there's anyone who have left from, even those who are suffering silently, we praise them and we look in the name of Jesus because we make every petition. And we thank you, we bless you, and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Father God, as we continue to worship and praise the Lord, we thank you for the prayer that was said on behalf of others, the Lord. And we pray that as we continue as you appear and you will bless, you will direct. So we bring our young people before you, dear Lord. Those that are seeking spouses, dear Lord. We pray that you will provide for them. You will bless them, dear Lord. Father, we ask that you will continue to give them that contented spirit, and that you will make upon you to choose for them, dear Lord. And as you choose, dear Lord, that you will treat their body as a temple of you that you can dwell. Father, we ask that you just bless each and every one, dear Lord, and provide it all. And we know that you will do things out according to your will and glory. So, Lord, we thank you for providing, we thank you for blessing, and we thank you for looking down upon them and keeping them faithfully, dear Lord. We also know when children that have to return to schools, dear Lord. We ask that you will bless all our children that have to work up to school. You will guide them, you will keep them safe, you will bless their mind. Father, in a special way, we pray for those that are leaving their homes and going to stay on school compound. We pray, dear Lord, that your blessing will go with them. You will just provide for them. You will put them in the right company, dear God. You will put everything in place for them, grant them in favor so they can't even see their God. And Father, we pray that Lord that they will make time to study your word and to study their schoolwork, but that they will take time to study your word and they will spend time with you. They will be involved in programs that are beneficial for the Christian life. Father, dear Lord, so we thank you, we praise and we worship you. We pray for the parents that are letting them go. We ask that you give them a stable mind and comfort their heart. Father, it is hard when they reach of this age to let go, but dear Lord, this is the time they make their choices, dear Lord, and have them to choose you on their side. So, dear Lord, we pray for the parents as well. We pray for finance that you provide for them, dear Lord. And help everything to work in place, dear Lord. Father, as the blessing comes down upon them, dear Lord, we as we are done, church members, and they too, dear Lord, will continue to be praise, honor, and glory. As we provide them, Lord, we will lift our hands and give you the praise. Father, we pray that they come with success and that all things go together. Well, Father, even their friends that are not Christian, that they will be alive to them and that men and women will be brought close to you. So, Lord, we ask your continued blessing upon each and everyone we pray. In Jesus' wonderful name, amen.
And we have our consolidation of our membership, our outreach this afternoon, and even as we go to when other souls for God that He will also give us wisdom to consider as they come, that His name, the fruit that we bring in His name, will remain as we bring our session.
It's so blessed, God. Father, Lord, we want that before. We must be opportunity to speak to you, to ask on behalf, asking for wisdom, dear God, in terms of how to interact, how to engage with your new born into us, and those that are to come as we engage and participate and plan for the rest of the year, more evangelistic efforts. Dear God, we ask, knowing that we are considered a family, help us as we reach out to each other, dear God, that we do so with a genuineness of love and care for one another, especially as mentioned, when we converts, we thank their God for the light that has been brought to them. And Father, we know that we may falter along the way, we may make mistakes, we may lose our temperance or even self-control, or we may speak out of terms with persons who we may have a love for, even in our overseas zealousness, dear God, trying to teach them the right way, dear God. Help us to do so with an attitude of understanding and again love and care, so that we can retain our members that have now come into the church, dear God. We pray and we ask for your blessings with regards to the evangelistic efforts. Lord, your ways are already planned. So we ask, dear God, that you will disembark or disengage, disrupt our agendas, our plans, the way that we think that we can reach the community, dear God. And we ask for inspiration through your Holy Spirit. Help us to be united. Help us again to show that love amongst one another as we go out into the community. So the men and women will see that love in us, knowing that again it's only through you and you, your Son Jesus Christ alone, that we can live. When we lift them up, we will draw all men towards you, dear God. So again, we ask for your blessings, your guidance. Keep us safe as we make our way in the highways and the byways. Dear God, give us again a love for men and open our eyes to see how you see men, women, and children, dear God, so that we can do that which you have called us to do in this part of the vineyard. We know nothing is too great, nothing is too hard for you, and we have come by faith even now, thanking you for the success that we will have in our upcoming evangelistic efforts. And also this evening, we pray that you again will clear the way as we make our way to the village this evening. We ask for good weather so that you can spread your word, spread your truth, and spread your hope and of your soon coming. Help us again to be a light to this community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Still my soul, the eyes is on. When we shall be forever alone. When is our voice, when we are fears alone. Sorrow lost joy restored. We still my soul when change and tears apart. All safe and blessed, and we shall meet at last. Amen.
This is it. At this time, we would like to thank you, Sister Ganesh, for leading us out in the procession and all those to petition on behalf of the church. We want to engage in another act of worship as we lift our offering for today. We want to ask the deacons to take their places as we sing that song, Give Thanks with a Grateful Heart, Give Thanks to the Holy One. All right, as the deacons, right, please. So let's sing that song. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Lord. Give thanks because he's good. Jesus Christ is thanks. Give thanks. Give thanks to the Lord. Give thanks. Give thanks. Because he's good. Jesus Christ is and let your peace say I am strong. Let the poor say I am rich because of what the Lord has done. As we continue, I promise not to keep you long again, but it would be unfair if we depart without getting the end of the presentation from this morning. And of course, we put further on the chat, just knowing that again, today is just the commencement. Tomorrow evening, all roads lead to South of Rouge for a live session. That will be done again, focus on the family, after which we will continue nightly for our services online by our Zoom platform. And please keep close to the chat group as we focus on the family. Just a few more minutes as we take in the final part of the presentation.
Well, when it comes to communication, there are a couple of things we need to look at. The first one is clarity. When under stress, it can become more challenging to communicate clearly. We can misunderstand and make assumptions because there's often less time for clarification. So let's say someone has died or someone has gone away. Maybe one of the siblings in the family has gone off to college and the other siblings are grieving for the loss of their older brother or sister. In times like this, everybody can't speak out in clear English what they're feeling, especially little children and even teenagers. I mean, we as adults often don't know how to express what we feel. So you can understand for children and teenagers how hard it is. And so we've got to realize that under stress, communication becomes more challenging, which means we need more patience. We need to slow things down if we can. Then there's collaborative problem solving. So instead of attacking each other, resilient families work together to resolve problems. So there will be a need to compromise, to brainstorm, to problem solve. Focus on what matters for your family. You know, come up with some clear goals and concrete steps which we're going to take and build your own success. Build on your successes, sorry. In other words, don't you as the parent pull aside and say, well, wife, we've got to come up with this problem. We've got to come up with the answers for this. You know, include the children in what's going on. They're seeing it. They know something's gone wrong, but mother and father are dealing with it on their own, and the poor children are left to wonder and come up with their own answers to what's going on. You can involve children to a certain extent, and the older they are, you could involve them even more. And the last one is open emotional expression. Open communication, supported by a climate of mutual trust, empathy, and tolerance for differences, enables family members to share the range of feelings that may come as a response to a crisis or chronic stress. In other words, allow the members in your family to speak how they feel. Don't shut them down. Don't say, oh, we don't want to hear that. I'm not dealing with that. No. If the child or if the husband or wife needs to talk about this particular aspect of what's going on, then the spouse needs to be open for that. You may not want to talk about it, but you need to be able to listen to some extent to what the other person is saying. So as we come to the end here, I want to share with you a couple of things. And this is one that I used when we were doing our seminar the first night on remember to use I messages when communicating. And I'm talking about between adults and even with your children. Teach your children how to use I messages. So a great way to do this is by following a script. And this is the script, but I'm not going to go through the script. I'm going to give you the example. Here's an example. I feel unloved when I share my concerns about my job and I'm told I have to keep working. Okay, let's say this is a husband talking to his wife. This upsets me because I believe my job is possibly harming my health. I worry that I won't be able to continue to provide and care for my family if my health is compromised. What I need from you, the wife, is to support my search for another job and be willing to make some sacrifices if the new job pays less. So you're coming at it from, this is how I'm feeling. And you can teach children to communicate in this way. So they can share their deepest emotions and their needs with you when they say, Mom and Dad, I am feeling so bad that my friend in school lost her mother, and it's affecting me, or I'm so sad that it's making me cry all the time. Let that kind of communication is what is needed among families. This is called the emotions wheel. And this is an excellent diagram of different emotions. So if you look at the inner circle, right here, the inner circle, you see angry, anticipation, happy, trust, fear, surprise, sad, and disgust. Now, what you have in all of those other words in the outer circles are words that you can use in place of disgust, for example. So I don't want to use disgust, but I can use repelled. I can use dislike. If I look at fear, other words that I could use is I feel weak, or I feel dread. Maybe I'm feeling nervous. And so what this is, this emotion wheel helps you, your wife, your children, the older children, that is, to have a whole briefcase of words that they could use to express how they're feeling. So that if a child is feeling afraid and they don't know how to express it to you, then you could say, okay, here are some words. Tell me which one is the one that you think best describes how you feel. And then you go through some of these words. Okay, now, in addition to this wheel, I have sent this to Sister London. There is a family resiliency survey. I've sent this to her as well. And it's something which you can go through with your family. And you will notice it's divided into 3 sections: belief systems, organizational patterns, and communicating and problem solving. And so you go through each one of these items here from 1 to 32. And you have a total of 160 points if your answers are almost or always. Your total is 160. But of course, nobody's perfect. So what you are looking at is, as you circle the correct answer, when you total it, you could have a pretty good idea. I mean, if you're coming under 100, let's say you got 95 out of 160, well, there's area for us to do some work. We need to improve. So what this is doing is going to help you see the weakest areas in your family when it comes to resiliency, and give you as parents the knowledge that you need to improve in these areas. So conclusion, instead of focusing on problems, focus on how families can succeed despite the barriers that they are facing. So don't let the problem be the only thing that you and your spouse or you and your family members keep talking about over and over and over and over. You know, you talk about the problem, fine, but now you've got to move on to, well, how are we going to deal with this? You know, brainstorm, problem solve. How can we communicate this to our children, and so on. So I thank you so much for being with us.
And I do thank you for staying and taking in this session, because information is important, guys. And of course, we are focusing on the family, knowing that God wants and His intention is for us to have strong, resilient families, husbands, wives, children, and of course, us setting the example to the community, because we know the challenges that the communities face when the families are otherwise. So again, we want to thank you for coming out today. Let us all stand as we just say a quick prayer. As we close, just a reminder, we do have our open service this evening. Limited same spot from previous time, from the last time. For those of us who were there, it's the Happy Hill Bar, where the teacher just reminded me. It's Happy Hill Bar, that road. Okay, there's a big field, as you go up into the Limited, maybe we put the information in chart as well. You know, we'll see the Limited Presbyterian Primary School on the left-hand side. It's a blue school. You will see a big field for those of you who know it. That's adjacent to that big field. There's a bar on the right-hand side. You go up on that road. You come in, you will hear music. Let us come on, let us support, and let's make a mark in Limited this evening. Let's go ahead for prayer. Heavenly Father, once again, we want to thank you for the opportunity to come into your house of prayer, to give you worship, to praise you, and give you adoration of you and you alone this day. We ask the God that you continue to feed us as we depart from this place and bring us out this evening, where again we can make a mark in the community of Limited to spread your gospel, to spread messages of hope, messages of love to those who need it most. And again, be with us as we go through the rest of this week. Continue to keep us safe as we continue to build strong families for you. In Jesus' wonderful name, let it should say, amen and amen. Okay, everyone, have a good lunch. Well, for those of you who are fasting, and we'll see you all at 4, we say 4, but we will start at least by 4:30.